So Scott Hamblen really needs no introduction. If you haven't seen the earlier Zoom that Scott did for us about mid-century modern coffee carafes that all look like spaceships to me, but are so gorgeous. Anyway, we're expecting a lot more eye candy tonight on kitchenware and barware, and I'm turning it over to you, Scott Hamblen. It is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Bill. Hello, all, once again. Let me get set up here. Maybe we'll brief preface. You know, as I was preparing for tonight, it was clear to me that I had to limit the scope of this tour somewhat. You know, I have tons, and we could be here all night. So I thought I'd just stick to the glassware highlights. You know, none of the ceramic or metal or bar tools, etc. And try and, you know, set some sort of structure. So I I worked on breaking things into two categories, basically kitchen glassware and cocktail sets, and while trying to hit most of the major manufacturers. So, you know, of course, there are many, many other glass makers and many decades of production that I don't collect, you know, everything from etched and cut crystal to swanky swigs and Bama crystal jelly glasses. Anyway, as most of you know, my preferred niche is mid-century modern American makers. I've had to limit myself to just American production and the decorators, you know, but 50s to the 60s. And brief disclaimer, you know, a lot of you guys have seen my stuff on Facebook or you're members of the mid-century glassware group, you know, so I apologize for any repeats, but most of which is there. I've included sets for which we have new information and info that's come to light since. So anyway, let's begin. Let me load up the eye candy here and share my screen. Okay, I think we're good. Let me minimize a few things. Okay. Just probably the only background prime example here. Wanted to make a distinction. This happens to be a set from Federal. It's called Palm Lily. But the main difference in, you know, the kitchenware and the cocktail stuff, most makers did at least two lines: a thrifty, cheaper, easier to make, easier to break, and not cry about, you know, lines for the kitchen. A lot of times they were thrifty with two E's, or Federal did homestead and hospitality, and one's barware and one's kitchenware. But the set on the left, you can tell it's a thrifty set and meant for really everyday use. Number one, it's got a flat bottom on the thinner side. Most of these are marked because of a flat bottom allows the maker to do so. And then most makers at some point introduce that safety rim where it's rounded and kind of doubled up and strengthened. Libby's famous safe edge was probably a prime example. But then you get the stuff on the right here, and those are all sham tumblers. Sham meaning heavy bottom. And they don't have that reinforced lip. They're slightly more elegant, meant for company. And I think the heavy bottom is more about a bunch of drunkards not spilling their drink. But there you have it. I just wanted to point that out because that's probably the defining difference, at least for me, and this presentation. So, all right, away we go. I'm just going to take you through groups of makers and see where we are. Yeah, we'll start with anchor hocking. I don't have my thumbnail, so I have to kind of go on the fly here, but anchor hocking, huge. Of course, one of the few that are still in business. And curly Q bands, a rather new acquisition for me. I haven't added a whole lot in years, really, but every once in a while one pops up online that I just have to have. And typical of anchor hocking, especially the happy home stuff here. These two in particular I don't have pattern names for them yet. I just haven't come across the decoration yet, but it's pretty obvious they're, you know, pretty straight up mid-century, cutesy. Lots of Pennsylvania Dutch during that time, and toll painted metalware. You know where we're going here. So, a couple more from Anchor Hawking. Shout out to Angela, as always. She's always finding me pattern names on the fly. And eventually we nailed these down. Rainbow and Radiance. They're pretty similar, but again, you can see they're kitchen tumblers, reinforced rim, a bit smaller in size. Strawberry, semi-recent acquisition. It's a bit homey for me, but you know, when I see them in the box, they're hard to pass up. So anyway, two pretty common ones actually: Modern Leaves and Golden Sunrise. We always called this Dodo, just because we didn't know what it was called for the longest time. But I think this is another one Angela found for me. But the Modern Leaves, that one you see pretty often. At least I used to. None of it I see very often anymore. I feel like most of it's been snatched up. Classic picture sets. That's another thing that, you know, came for the kitchen from just about every maker. And they can be difficult to tell, but if you learn your pictures, there are telltale signs. Needless to say, pastel ribbons. It's kind of a classic. And and I threw this in. Avocado, not necessarily my favorite, but this is right up into the late 60s into the 70s. And I cut my collection off in the 70s. It Things got drastically changed, tastes, the whole Mediterranean look, which this is all coming from. But probably my favorite though is the Sereno stuff. I used to have big sets of the dishware for my everyday, but the one I've kept is this Mardi Gras set. It's a little hard to find, but that fired on ombre color, totally distinctive. And of course, the box graphics are great. Had to throw one in from Corning. We don't see a whole lot from Corning. Sometimes it's hard to nail down, but it's also a classic example of a juice set. So, you know, back in the days when moms actually squeezed fresh orange juice. And then came Minute Maid, but that said, this set's Charm, kind of a frosted pastel, but pretty typical of Corning. They, you know, these shapes, these picture shapes definitely vary, but they're pretty much, you can spot them as Corning. I'm sorry, it looks like I missed a slide. This one's from Bartlett Collins, and it has a name, and I don't recall off the top of my head. But when Tom Felt of the West Virginia Glass Museum finally put out a catalog CD on Bartlett Collins, I would recommend it highly because it was long overdue in coming. We were looking for more information, but typical of them, easily recognize their pictures as Bartlett Collins, out of Oklahoma, of course. And Federal. Oh, this one's got a little wonky. Sorry, I should have edited better. Don't know the orange set down here on the left, but Federal Festoon, that's kind of a classic. Sorry that's covered up. I guess I missed an edit on this one. And some of these came in additional sizes as well. Federal did a lot of iced tea glasses. A few more cutesy ones, a la carte and Fantan. A la carte's a little early, Fantan's a little later into the 60s. Yeah, Rooster, Bluebirds. Bluebirds I see pretty good, but you see there the Homestead sets. That was Federal's division between Homestead and Hospitality were the cocktail sets. And not so much a line name, but I think more of a marketing just over overall category name for them. Oh yeah, I threw in Federal Star. This is a classic from Federal, and I put it in. I have a little bit of it. It's earlier. It's into the 50s, early 50s, and Star was a big seller for Federal. A lot of you might recognize the little juice pitchers. Those were promos with so many things. You could get them at the grocery stores, but they used to be totally ubiquitous. I used to see them everywhere. Of course, being in Ohio helps, but just a classic that I would be remiss if I didn't include. A couple of newer ones to me. Again, pitcher sets, umbrellas, and trade winds. The funny thing on this umbrella set, if you look at the pictures, the graphics are actually upside down. It's raining up. And I'm not sure if that was intentional or if this was a mistake or an irregular. So I haven't seen another picture to verify that one way or the other. But too good when I found it. Too good to pass up. Oops. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Doubled up. Jeanette. Needed to include a few from Jeanette. Jeanette's one of those makers where we're still just learning about pattern names and info. They use numeric codes for everything, and we've had a bit of ephemeral surface, but we're always looking for more. But Jeanette, classic for kitchen tumblers here. I wish I had a name, but boy, they remind me of a 50s linoleum floor. But anyway, we'll see. We do have a few pattern names for Jeanette. Yeah. Put in one of these floss decorations. Just about everybody did one at one time or another. They got real popular, but Jeanette did these in a series of I think 4 colors at least. This one's blue, but I think this was a big promo because there were like a dozen of these tumblers. Maybe they went out to a grocery store or something like that, gifts with purchase, because they usually came as a rainbow set. But I just happen to have 12 in blue. One of the smaller, less known companies, Decatur Glass, out of Texas, of all places, not known for making glassware, but I threw this text glass slide in because this is my everyday. This is what I use in my kitchen. It's in a myriad of colors, goes with anything. I can break them, easily replace them. Didn't matter about the color. So those just clicked early on, but they're a little bizarre with that little thumbprint kind of dimple in there. But took me years, but I finally scored the picture. But Decatur Glass, right around Decatur, Texas, right around Dallas, Fort Worth. And a classic from Libby. Had to include this. Libby Tempo, huge seller for Libby. Came in crystal and aqua and gold. And I think this is mint, was their green color. And more from Libby. Somewhat new acquisition, but I love this. Spatter Dash. I'd never seen it before, and then came across this and had to dig deep into the catalogs to find it. But great little set here. It was in great shape. But what a name, Spatter Dash. Yeah, caddy packs. Just thought I'd throw this for the example. Libby, Hazel Atlas, Anchor Hocking. They all did a lot of little 4-packs too, but don't know the pattern name to this one yet. But again, that Libby Safe Edge, dead giveaway. They patented that for a while, and then it caught on. I think it also worked as a lip for jelly jar caps, the kind that used to pop off. Or I remember pimento cheese in them too as well, things like that. But I think that rim helped, helped the vacuum pack it. But one of these days, Angela, here's your next task. Let's find the name to these. Hazel Atlas. Again, lots of picture sets, definitely pictures that are recognizable as Hazel Atlas. These are Hazel Atlas. They got bought out in the late 50s by the Continental Can Company. Can be a little confusing. Hazel Atlas started a marketing line called Hazelware, and when Continental Can bought the company, they also bought the trademark for Hazelware. So they continued to use that. And a lot of us just use it interchangeably with Hazel Atlas. It's not you. It's a lost cause. There's no correcting or fighting it. But this is genuine. This is from the 40s, early 40s, sunrise, sunset. I think it came in yellow as well, but one of my faves, just because I wanted an example of some early stuff from them. But don't don't get all caught up in the company name. I try and note it when I see it. Case in point, you'll see Hazelware. This is confetti, and then the one on the right. I think the one on the right is. I think I just finally came across the name, but neglected to make note of it, or at least you know crumb trail of where I could find the information again. So didn't happen by this presentation time, but again, this is Hazelware from CCC. Oh, and couldn't get by couldn't get by kitchenwares without the ubiquitous, totally nostalgic metal aluminum tumbler. We've all seen them. A number of companies did them, and I think you'll all well remember how much they sweated and how much they hurt your teeth or gave you the willies. But Perma they're probably the biggest player out there. So I'd be remiss if I didn't include them. And oh, Colorcraft, right? They did this line Shatterproof. Most people know them from that. They call them spaghetti string or that drizzly floss kind of textured, sort of rubber-like feeling. The coating. I'm not into them. I haven't come across a set in the box, so they never made it home. But Colorcraft did do more than that floss decoration. And this is the one example I do have. But definitely kitchenware. Oh, and we can't forget about go-alongs. Of course, some of the kitchenware here was actually specifically made to go with dishes and stoneware. Most of these are the classic, routine big four from, Cannonsburg's Temperama and Salem's North Star, and then Royal China, the Blue Heaven, and the Star Glow. I think the Star Glow is about the only one I have left, but definitely helped set the table, and they were always fun to collect if you were into the dinnerware patterns. And there was at least 4 or 5 different sizes for these, but getting a little harder to find, I must say. And the North Star one, of course, I think that was a giveaway. That was a gas station promo, for a fill up. But and several makers, down the road made them. I think Libby made North Star for a while. Patterns slightly different, just blue and black, but they were still go-alongs. And and my favorite. And another shout out to Angela. I'll be doing that all night. She helped me find one of these box sets, but I collect Stetson's Hiawatha and had no idea that there were go-alongs for it till I found this set of basically tumblers and juice glasses. But the box was great because it let me know that there were other sets out there. Case in point, a picture set. Now, my mission is to find the juice chiller. I'm sure it's some kind of little carafe, probably with a plastic top, but great set, great set. One of my pride and joys. Okay, we can basically segue to some of the barware now, and I thought I'd do that with shaker sets. I don't have a lot. I used to collect more, but they kind of fell off my radar, or I just fell out of circulation for me. I just stopped seeing them out and about, and I don't have too many, but I have some classics. Of course, Jeanette. Jeanette, once again, they did the 700 series, and there's at least, maybe 6, 7, 8 patterns in this, and they all came with a multitude of buffetware, chip and dip, ashtray sets, whole sets of tumblers and whatnot. But finally got a name to these, domino, and then there's a big punch set I have here on wood hue, and it's nice, but a classic Jeanette shape for that bowl. But it was nice to actually pin these names down and confirm them. And I used to do punch every once in a while, but another one, don't have the pattern name for this. Again, Jeanette. It's all about numeric codes, and until we find some kind of catalog sheet or pricing sheet, we may never know. But cross your fingers that more paper surfaces and makes it into the hands of the right people. Oh yeah, again from Corning and Macbeth Evans. I'd be remiss if I didn't include a little something from them. I think this is the one cocktail set I have, and don't think I've ever pinned down a name for it either, but it just took me a while to ID the maker. But Macbeth Evans stuff, it's all kind of coordinated. It starts to look alike, and there's usually a good indication to start your research going down that road. But for me, this is the one set I have, so happy to share. In Colony, we haven't talked much about the decorators, but of course they had confusion, all of us collectors. The decorators info was sparse at first. It's more and more of it's coming to light. A lot of these we wouldn't know unless I found them in the box, but the decorators notorious for buying blanks from all the majors. So you're looking at something, it's got to be Hazel Alice, but it's not, and it's not marked, and it's because of a contract probably. But Colony, division of Pittman Dreitzer, they did a lot of this. If you watch the carafe session, there are a number from Colony, but they were a big decorator, and these guys are of course all into retail, into the trade shows, into the markets twice a year, and you'd find them there until their stuff, they'd wholesale it out. You wouldn't really see it otherwise, except for your department store. But just another little fun cocktail set for two. But yeah, I had to include Colony, and I think I have a few things here from them. Oh, the Cocktailer. This is a classic, but you see it listed as Indiana, and it was, but I think originally this was federal, and Indiana bought the molds for this and produced a lot more of it. But early on, I believe it was federal, as I recall. This was one of my first sets, and I confirmed it back then, but now I list it as Indiana. But they kept the name, the Cocktailer. Federal used that as well as Indiana, and you can see all the little strainers and stuff that came with it. But it's a heavy shaker too, but a classic. Oh, and speaking of, yeah, this is where you could tell these are Hazel Atlas shapes, definitely. The molds, the ice bucket, even the juice glasses, or the little cocktail glasses, and the shaker. But Carmex was some third-party retailer, giftwares folks. I have a few of their carafes as well. Wasn't sure though. I had this in the box for ages and had nothing but a name until I came upon the glasses and the caddy, and the hang tag finally nailed it down for me. But I don't know if it's necessarily the coolest design, but needed to throw in a few of these oddball guys just for just for interest and comic relief. And Hazel Atlas again. These are Hazel Atlas classics. The cobalt stuff on the right. Yeah, lots of underwater motif. There's sailors. There's a number. I think there's a Pennsylvania Dutch one, but still classics from Hazel Atlas. And usually you can tell by their shape, maybe their tops, whatnot. But I think this is all I have. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the probably the nicer stuff for company. Fostoria, another one of those many other makers. You know, everybody from Tiffin and Steuben and Fostoria. You know, just a lot of stuff I don't collect except for this one line. And oddly enough, I buy it without the box because I get it when I find it. And there was Inca on the left, Karnak, my favorite, on the right, the Egyptian theme, but you know, to have crocodile skin, I thought that was pretty novel. And then there's one other, Congo, which I don't have, but maybe soon will. But the Karnak ones are great too because it's kind of a rounded square bottom as well. They're rather unique, but these are tall guys. These are big coolers. I think they made a few other sizes too. A lot of folks love Fostoria for all the shoji and heavy gold embossed decorations. Shoji's probably, and I think trellis is another one. They're probably the most popular, but for me, this is my one and only dive into Fostoria. Oh, yeah, and new info came to light here for years. We've been trying to figure out, you know, some of these designers that signed the pattern. A lot of them you can tell right off, but we've been whittling away at it. And these sets signed meth, we really had no idea until, at least for me, Tom Felt posted some ephemera for Park Avenue Manufacturing. Had never heard of them either, but they're out of Cincinnati, go figure, which is where I found these 3 sets, but the boxes are just blank. There was no info on them. Excuse me, but Tom posted some info on another pattern from them, and there it was listed. Henry Meth is their designer. So I don't think this has a name. I call it Blackbirds, but definitely Mike Carmack's, like a number of other smaller retailers. Didn't see too much. I assume they were only at trade shows and sold retail through your department stores. But only other word of caution, the gold is fleeting on these. Be very careful when washing them. Washington Glass. I have a few things from them, not many, but they're worth representing. They were, you know, maybe second tier in terms of production and output and longevity, but definitely some cool sets. This cocktail set, Green Ice, came upon that and wouldn't have a name for it other than it in the box. The one on the right, I don't have a name for. I'm still looking. I've gotten close, but not a whole lot of info or paper out there on Washington Glass. But again, all from this area: Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. You know, there are others. Of course, Corning, New York, but good for an example. And now these are Jeanette's. This is some of their actual cocktail ware. Of course, these sets could double. You know, they were still hostess friendly, carried all out to the patio, even if it's just iced tea, you know, but don't have a pattern name for this, but definitely Jeanette, major player. And we hope to remedy all this one day. Bartlett Collins. Yeah, we're back to their side of the cocktail ware. they did some great things, I must admit. This pattern wiggle puts a smile on my face every time. And they did straight sets. They did multiple sizes in addition to their picture sets. But this is one for me. Beach ball. Just another one of those sets. Pokey. Pokey's a signature on there. Pokee. Not sure who Pokey is yet. I think it only, or how it ties in. I think there's only just the occasional reference to it in the catalogs and whatnot that I've seen. But that said, I'm not sure it really matters. But Bartlett Collins, just they did their share of cool decals. And the famous Russell Wright line. Bartlett Collins put out this Oklahoma line, and they did a number of patterns. Russell, we know for sure, did 2 of them between Eclipse here and Rocket Burst or Asterix, which I do not have a set of. I don't even have any loose ones for Rocket Burst, but in this Oklahoma line, they further named their shapes, the Sooner shapes. And thank you, Pam Hogue, for these. It was a miracle finding these in the box, but it helps to know a few dealers, especially when they're in town for the Cincinnati show. So this was a bit of a holy grail for me to finally find a set in the box. But I have a few others. Again, the Oklahoma line, and these are the high balls. They're pretty distinctive for Bartlett Collins in that most of these are tapered and with a very heavy bottom. But this rhythm is it's pretty cool. It's probably one of the half a dozen. There's Cimarron and Cimarron and there's a rooster pattern I think out there as well. Moving on to Anchor Hawking's side of the cocktail ware, just like the Decatur glass and the Tex glass line, it's my everyday. This is my everyday barware. This is the barware that lives in the bar and gets used, or used to at least at one time. Oh, and I guess I missed the name. The stuff on the left, classic. Most people have seen it. It's Golden Spires. You hear it called Golden Peaks all the time. The set down on the right, I have yet to find a name for. It was a long time in coming, I think, but by the time I finally ID'd these as Anchor Hawking, but wanted to throw it out there because this is my everyday. And all of these came in about half a dozen sizes, from big sky balls all the way down to the little 1 ounce jigger kind of cocktail glasses. But another great pattern. So many from Anchor Hawking, so much. L. Mercer is the signature you see there on the left on these Calypso. Finally got an ID on the pattern name, but don't know much about L. Mercer yet. Still looking into that. We finally nailed down one of their other designers, but we'll certainly share when we do come to know. But what a great pattern. Sorry, I don't have one with the white insert showing it off as well, but typical of Anchor Hawking, this whole festive line of theirs was pretty cool. The one on the right, relatively new score for me, but don't have pattern name on that yet either. But definitely worth a show. Oh yeah, and an earlier one. These are earlier 50s. This diplomat shape is pretty distinctive for Anchor Hawking. I can usually see it at a distance, but Maroon Horse, I think it came in 1 or 2 other colors like white and or black, but thought I'd include an example of some of the earlier stuff here as well. But of course, Anchor Hawking's production just continued to flow more and more. The bad thing about Anchor Hawking, they don't always print the pattern name on the box. So many of the makers did, and it was so helpful over the years for me. It was just gravy, cherry on top to finding something in the box is to actually find a pattern name. Today, we still don't know what these are, but way cool, way cool. I actually stole the set on the right. It was an eBay set that I missed, and I Googled it or clicked on it, and it turns out they were in my hometown here, 10 minutes away from me, and half an hour later, they were mine. But I digress. A couple more from Anchor Hocking. Again, no pattern name for these columns on the left, or I don't know, it's sort of I think it's maybe an Oriental takeoff setup on the right, but the bonus are the graphics. I'm just a sucker for a box, and when the graphics are great, it's just a plus. And Anchor was good about that. Referencing designers we didn't know a whole lot about. These are later into the 60s, and William Gennari, we finally pinned him down. He was a designer that signed on with Anchor Hocking back in the 60s, and he was with them for years until he became head of their design department on into the 80s. But this whole Elegance series came out when there was a trend for these transparent colors. I think Anchor Hocking kind of led the way, but you see them from other makers, but definitely needed to include this set because there is true demarcation. You see a lot of this come into the late 60s and on into the 70s. But it was good to actually pin down Gennari. And of course, Angela pinned down the name Anticipation, which I adore. But these Elegance sets, yeah, they're not marked on the box. So it was great to find some info on them. Another one from Gennari, Night and Day. Kind of with that whole eclipse theme that pops up from other designers and whatnot. But I guess their original moniker for these designs is part of their marketing. I've seen it on a few boxes here and there, but excuse me, I've only got a few sets from Gennari, but I think this is one of his better. Certainly kind of swanky. And then you've got guys like this. These third-party decorators all over the place. I've only seen a few patterns from this Essex retailer. They were a wholesaler out of New York, and of course did the trade shows and whatnot. But I think I finally came across some trade show ad that nailed down the pattern for me. But the pattern's Time and Gold and White. It's all I've ever seen it in. But G. Reeves signed these, and I think we did finally tie Reeves into Essex as their designer. Don't have any background on him, but used to pop up on little orphan glasses, and we wondered forever who he was tied to or who made this production until I finally found a set in the box here. But could finally pin it down with Reeves and Essex, whoever Essex was. And VQL, Vitry and Queens Lusterware, another one out of New York. I have to say, not my favorite, but I have one set, my token didactic example. Anything with this chrome kind of platinum treatment, VQL is my default. I think this is a later shape from Ruby or Anchor Hocking, but they were one of those decorators bought lots of blanks from everybody else. And a lot of the ombre kind of shaded platinum, it's real popular with folks. It's less so with me, but again, needed an example and was not going to say no to a box. So here it is. Wish I had a name for the patterns though. I'm sure they called them something. Yeah, and Culver. Culver and I are love-hate. Most of the Culver people love and collect. is all their Mediterranean stuff in the 70s, for which we have pretty good documentation, again, courtesy of Tom and the museum and his monographs. But I happen to know on the inside skinny early on that early Culver was the best, in my opinion. And this is in the 50s, and they didn't mark much. They did a lot of contract work, even though they were decorators using other companies' blanks. This box is a dead giveaway for Culver. And contract wise and whatnot, yeah, they didn't always put their name on it. And years and years later, finally, we all knew this had to be Mark Bellaire's design. Those who know his ceramics, his California production, are quite familiar with him. Beachcomber is another one. I have a set, but I couldn't get it photographed in time. But the Harlequin, I actually collect these ceramics. And finally, I think courtesy of Tom as well, we saw some Culver literature, some early literature, and there was an ad that just pegged Mark Belair to these. So it was a happy day. But I don't know if we got a pattern. I call it Harlequins, or I see it Harlequins. I think it's a take on the Mardi Gras pattern he did, which is pretty much the only Harlequin I see on his ceramics. He had others from Jamaica to peppermint stick and whatnot, but these were a holy grail for me. Definitely to find them in the box. So enjoy. Oh yeah, Sarah Glass. They had their niche. They've got some good stuff. I don't have too many sets. They did a lot of those coin sets, coins from around the world. But this is my one travel set. Not too easy to find any more info about them, or pattern names or dates and whatnot. But obviously, my nostalgia for these kind of 60s graphics, I just can't get enough of them. But luckily, I think about 90% of Sarah's stuff is marked, and it's a distinctive mark with that crown. You can see there on the third detail photo on the right, you can see their little crown mark as well as the Sarah logo. But one of my favorite sets. Oh yeah, I had to throw this in just for me and for y'all. But Cambridge, another one like Steuben and all those other great manufacturers, certainly with some of the more prettier traditional stuff. I do collect a little Cambridge. I collect Cambridge Square, which was their last production line before they folded. But I have always loved this little cordial set. And it's earlier, it's his late 30s, 40s. And I see it in clear a lot, but it's small, it's a cordial set. But this Carmen was their name for their ruby. And I think this was a Christmas present to myself a few years back. When I saw it, I had to have it. But it's, yeah, it's a little more 30s modern than mid-century, but you guys got to cut me some slack because this is one of my faves. So no tour would be complete without. The novelty sets. These are all over the place, so I had to include the one set I have from Galaxy. Don't know much about them other than they were, a third-party trade show folks. But these novelty sets for drinks and what you pleasure and whatnot. I think, the poor bartender had a grease pencil, and these things could help him out. Same thing with like numbered sets. It was all about keeping drinks straight or keeping drunks tied to their glass so that they wouldn't forget which one was theirs. But you could actually mark these and send them out and send them back with a drink order already on them, just to keep getting topped off and refilled. But Galaxy did a few things. It just happens to be, I think, the one set that I do have. Oh, and yeah, and back to Hazel Atlas. their side of the cocktail side. They did some beautiful, really cool sham tumblers. And again, I don't have many. Most of what's out there for Hazel Atlas was Continental Can, but these are true early Hazel Atlas. I'd say early to mid 50s. Don't have a pattern name for it yet, but what a great box. Oh, shout out again to Angela. 10 minutes before this, we figured out we pinned down a better name. For years, these have been called Skylark. I've called them Skylark. I don't think it has anything to do with the car per se, but we did have a catalog surface and a cut sheet for pricing and pattern names. Turns out this one's called Futuristic Modern. And I've had the little set of 4 for a while, but came across the ones on the left here. These were jelly jars, or in this case, mayonnaise. Blue plate, definitely a southern thing, but yeah, there's like 2 dozen, at least a dozen and a half, maybe 2 dozen in this box, and they were destined for blue plate. These were inside shipping, only to be filled and capped, but I just happened to find a box of old stock. And they did come in solid colors like this pink. They came in solid turquoise, solid black, but definitely Hazel Atlas and one of my favorites. Another one from Hazel Atlas or CCC. Finally found a cut sheet for this one, Mosaic, one of my favorites. The caddies, I'm a sucker for a caddy like most people, along with the box. And this is Telltale Hazel Atlas. Federal has a similar one, I think we'll see later, where it's more chevron shaped with the second tier, the holder there, instead of this kind of scooped look from Hazel Atlas, but that's a dead giveaway. And Mosaic, really, really fun pattern. And the swanky one, this is a more relatively newer acquisition. I think I pinned this one down the same cut sheet, Casino. And the graphics are great, but again, Continental Can, and you can see the Hazelware logo up there on the top of the top left of the box. They definitely marketed these, but these are tall Collins glasses. Not sure of the ounce. Oh, is it 12 ounce? Yeah, 12 ounce. And a bit of a backstory. I've shared this before, but forever I thought these were Hazelware. This was Continental Can. This is a great pattern. Only to find out later on, this is actually a Gay Fad pattern. The guys who restarted Gay Fad and are issuing new designs as well as designs that never made it into production, they've been just killer about updating our knowledge. And what little I have as far as Hazel Atlas took a big beating when they were sold. Continental Can, and then later in the 70s to Brockway, and just downright malicious. Those guys destroyed archives. They didn't want it to get sold again. They destroyed all the catalogs. It's not hard to find. But it turns out Gay Fad, who this pattern belongs to, called Bordeaux. You'll see it in black. You'll see it in turquoise as well. At some point in time, Continental Can was ripping off their designs. And I think, as I recall, Gay Fad sent them a nice little attorney's letter to cease and desist. But to me, this is the one novelty that proves the story that they actually did do it. They violated this. This was out long before with Gay Fad. Gay Fad had a tray that went with these, a metal serving tray. But for me, it's my one little bit of trivia in a box. Right, okay, back to Colony. Colony did some great hostess sets, not just great patterns, but we know very little from them catalog wise. For me, it all comes off the boxes. Sometimes hard to tell because you can see these were labeled and the labels got washed off pretty quick, but This squares design I think is killer, but they did some great caddies as well as some great hostess innovations, and I think I have a few here in a row. So let's take a look. Yeah, the El Dorado. This is complete. It came with two different setups. One with the ice bucket and a few of those little glass trays, all of which were stock pieces for Hazel Atlas. Or you could combine it straight up into a snack tray with four of them, and choose to go with the milk glass or the clear. But El Dorado, great set. You see it from time to time. It's not totally rare, but I see orphans pretty frequently. And another one, don't have a name for this yet, but again, it's a setup for hostess, the little square trays in there. That ice bucket lid, dead giveaway for Colony, as well as those tapered walnut handles, but that little kind of rosette with a walnut knob, dead giveaway for Colony. But one of the few sets I don't have in a box. I just picked, I think I found this for like $2, $3 at a thrift store way back when the living was good and the picking was easy. And another favorite, I think some of y'all seen this one before too, but Domino White. I think it came in Domino Black as well. I just happen to have the white set. Again, another great caddy. But all in good taste, as they say. And okay, now we'll move on to Federal. I'll try and move it along, but I think probably nearest and dearest to my heart is Federal Glass out of Columbus. By far the most numerous number of cool patterns and production, and moving to Ohio when I did was just a blessing in disguise. But for a long time, it's, I love Anchor Hawkins stuff. I love Federal Hazel Atlas, but I think if I had to take one set to an island, it's probably going to be from Federal. Anyway, Acapulco and Peacock. Pretty cool. These are the highballs in the Acapulco, and these are big double old fashions. Federal called these jumbo jiggers, but yeah, they are a big old fashioned. Anyway, you can stay out on the patio longer with your drink before you have to get a little refresh. Classics from Federal. Of course, the one on the left, see it all the time. It's the amoeba decoration. Well, no, it's not. Federal called this Capri. I have a few sets in it. It also came in black. They called it Capri as well, except for a year or two, they called it Contemporary. But just a quick side note, I don't know much because, again, I limit myself to American makers, but there was some kind of relationship with either a maker or a decorator out of Canada, Cutler. And Cutler used this Capri decoration. I don't know if Federal just contracted direct to them, if they were a distributor, under the wire and internationally, I'm not real sure. But Cutler did a massive gas station program with these. So if you're in the border states for the US and you come across these, odds are they're really Canadian. But the twist is that Cutler did it in other colorways. Again, just the aqua and black was Federal, but you see them in white and pink and whatnot from Capri. From Cutler. And then most recently, we actually came across an English maker or retailer or decorator, whatever they might be, that did them in all kinds of other colors and on different shapes that I've seen over the years and just could never account for the different colorways. Didn't know who made them. And lo and behold, somebody posted a box and there it was. So that's what I attribute all these to. But yeah, Federal, Capri, big time. Celestial, another big one. Of course, these came in a half of different sizes, from the pilsners to the jumbo jiggers to the little cocktails to the highballs and skyballs, as they were called. But Celestial used to be pretty easy to find, not so much anymore. Two more favorites, Swirl and Twist. Sorry, the one on the right's a little grainy. I thought I had a better photo than that, but just all around fun with Federal. The fun never stops. Carnival on the left. That's just a fun set. When I found it, I just couldn't resist. Garden Wall on the right. Quick funny story. I had no idea I had these, so I was doing some inventory and pulled out a box and said, "What's this? And when did I get it?" I had no idea, but it's always fun to rediscover, regardless. It's a cool pattern, definitely mid-century. Two more classics from Federal, Philo and Glen Echo on the right there. Multiple shapes. You can see them on the boxes. They came in gimlets as well, you can see. But for botanicals, I think they're pretty cool. And of course, I wasn't about to pass them up when I came into them. But I think I've got some highballs somewhere, but thought I'd show the Pilsners for sure. If you learn your Pilsners, you'll be able to figure out the orphans, because they all, not all glass companies did them, but all those that did are relatively unique. Federal, for example, the stem on these is faceted. Other makers, they're just straight, or they might be more bead-like. But those Federal who know and they collect, the lovely Ava Zeisel, I guess Eva, some people say too. She designed two lines for Federal. The earlier Prestige line, which I think I had to cut just for length and time, and then later the Stockholm line. Stockholm saw a lot of patterns, and it saw a lot of third makers and a lot of other outside contracts for them. But they came as sets. They came as you can see, in different sizes. And then at some point, Federal put them in this caddy, this carry-all caddy, and it's unique to Federal, and it's unique to the Stockholm shape. But this is the one set I had, Ventura, and just another little set here on the right. I don't know who these were done for. These are with silver overlay. These are not platinum. I actually had to polish those at one time, but fun little caddy. But the carry-alls were pretty cool. One of my favorites from Federal, Fantasia, or Fantasia, however you want to call it, but aqua and orange, gold and black. Does it get any more mid-century? Not sure, but definitely a favorite. Yeah, and here's one where you can see Federal did change shapes along the way. You'll notice the stems on these Pilsners are straight. So they did morph over time, new molds, new lines, but op art, definitely late 60s. Not necessarily my favorite genre for art, but certainly takes me back. Very nostalgic, but they weren't alone. A lot of folks did some kind of similar pattern just to recognize the art movement. Again, just full circle, that caddy there on the right, you can see that's a Federal caddy. Can be mistaken for the Continental can, but this one is actually angled, has that chevron V shape, while the Hazel Atlas one is just kind of a swooped curve. Had to include one beverage set for Bridge. All the rage, Bridge, Canasta, Pinochle, whatever it was back in the day. Just about everybody, including a few just really obscure third-party retailers. They all did a card set at some point, but this was Federal's Kings and Queens, and just a fun one to have. I'm glad I have it. It's representative none the least. Lots of these Merrymakers. The Merrymakers were probably some of my favorite sets. They had some of just the coolest designs, period. But again, who could go wrong with aqua and black? But more so than that, the graphics. They used a couple of different graphic sets for these Merrymaker sets, and I love them all. Contact, that was another Merrymaker, one of my favorites. I had to squeeze in for time and space, so I didn't include boxes with all these, but I do have the boxes for these. And just straight-sided, tall Collins glasses, hard to beat Federal. But Federal's Collins glasses show up in all kinds of incarnations and third-party production, but these are Federal and Polka. It's one of my faves. More from Federal. These entertainment sets, or at least that moniker, that marketing moniker, these are later into the 60s, but Pinwheels, it's a great one. And this Classique, that's actually a unique caddy. It's similar to the ones that Libby used, so I'm wondering if the same maker produced those for Federal with just a little twist, and it's that W-shaped handle. So definitely a giveaway for them, but this is the only set I've ever seen it with these patio sets from Federal. One in my top 10. I know they all seem that way, but this really is Federal Mobiles. It's just a fun set, what's to say. And it's my one example I needed to include of something frosted. Frosted was definitely a trend back in the day. Sometimes it gives me the willies to hold. I will be honest and admit it. I'm not sure why, but they don't sweat and they're definitely easier to hang on to. But just the graphics are too cool. Too cool. Snowflake on the left, another classic. These were a big seller. I used to see Snowflake all the time, and were relatively easy to find and in relatively good shape. Like anything, the gold can be fleeting, and of course, anything that went into a dishwasher was a goner. So it's just part of the beauty of finding them unused in the box. I threw up the contemporary here on the right for two reasons. Number one, to show, names come and went and got repeated. If you'll remember the Capri was listed as contemporary for a while, but I actually don't have a set of these, but it's one of my favorites. I have these two. These are giant iced teas, and I would give something special to find a set in the box. But again, like Fantasia and whatnot, it's one of my favorites from Federal. So maybe the day will come, but just great pattern. Okay, I guess I did it for Federal. That's all I could squeeze in. And what time is it? I need to get going. Libby, Longchamp. Is there a better Kentucky Derby glass? I don't think so. I've had this one for years. But that caddy, classic Libby caddy as well, came with so many things. But let's move along. Oh, needed to include this from Libby. Libby did two really cool lines, Continental and an earlier one called New Dimensions. And I have these, but it was too much to put in the slides, so I just took all of my field examples here for better clarity. But Granada, Alpine, and then Nordic, great one. Mediterranean, a lot of folks, they re-released Mediterranean at some point, but my favorite has to be Monte Carlo and the Seville. But Monte Carlo, I mean, look at that. I don't think I get much argument, but Here you are. This was all 6 patterns. New dimensions, 6 patterns as well, but I only have 3. There's 3 other botanicals that are very hard to find, and I don't even have a single example. But Staccato and Adagio, I have a few sets of Adagio. I think I have some Pilsners and whatnot. And this is Jardin, one of the few sets where the pattern differed from side to side. But New Dimensions and the Continental lines, both of them hard to beat from Libby. They pulled out the stops on this one. Just some more production all into the 70s. Dania and Lanai. I guess perfect for the Lanai if you're out on the patio. If I go too fast, somebody wave at me. Lace leaves, one of my favorites, I think, just for the colors, and lots of gold. Lots of gold. But Libby uniquely still put their safe edge. You can tell from that box. They still put their safe edge on their sham stuff too. I think it really helped with longevity and carelessness and Butterfingers. Classic set from Libby International, one of my favorites as well. But 8 different patterns. And if I'm not mistaken, the orange one there for Havana, that changed after Cuba fell to Castro. And I forget what it was replaced with. Somebody might remind me in the chat. But this is the original set that did include Havana. Oh, Libby's tall, skinny coolers. Had to put up at least one party time example. Another great box graphics, but Coin and Galaxy. You see Galaxy used to pretty regularly. Coin too pops up from time to time, but it's funny. These coolers, like compared to Federal, they're taller and skinnier. So just fun. All right, yeah. I was editing for time. We've got to get on to Libby. Had to throw this out there. I do include a few of the oddballs and the smaller makers. One of which has been a pet maker of mine, this Beaver Valley glass. Definitely with Tom Felt's help, we've kind of nailed them down. But William Meyer, another maker, did some great things. I really don't have any Meyer glass, but Meyer had an offshoot, a subsidiary called Beaver Valley Glass in Beaver Valley, PA. I think it took over the old Fry glass factory, if I'm not mistaken, at some point too, but had this set for years and years and years, and look, it's just truly bold, and loved it. It's a little grainy. I do apologize. It's an old photograph, but Tom finally pinned it down. This set's called After 5. And if you look close enough, you can see there's actually a clock motif, and it's about 4 minutes past 5. But it was good to nail down Beaver Valley, because I think my next slide, my pride and joy in my most recent acquisition and discovery, also from Beaver Valley Glass. Had no idea when I saw this online. It was in the box, marked Beaver Valley. I thought it was a really cool lemonade set, picture that I hadn't really seen before, that shape. And made an offer after months of watching it, finally made an offer, and it became mine. And I've told this story before. I got it home and opened the box, and of course on the Beaver Valley box, it's marked lemon slices. So I'm just smiling, grinning into ear to ear that I have a pattern name. And then went to inspect it and make sure all of it was intact and whatnot. And lo and behold, these were Erwin Kalla, who most dinnerware and ceramic ware folks know his designs for Taylor Smith Taylor, and especially for Highland. His casual craft line out of Highland is super special. But I had seen 1 or 2 sets from Kalla, mainly a great aquatic fish motif, but had no idea who produced his glass. And it turns out Beaver Valley, aka William Meyer. So joy, joy, joy in the neighborhood that day. Anyway, great for lemonade, you gotta admit. And I think it ties into Fred Press where we're headed next. Ah, bingo. And this is another big help from Tom, but turns out we didn't know, we all knew Fred Press, didn't necessarily know his pattern names. Knew, of course, he did them for Ruble. Ruble, a wholesaler and retailer and a marketer for the trade shows and gift wares out of New York. Fred took over in 1950 when Ernest Zone left to start his own design firm, Zone Creations. And these boxes I was finding showed up, and it was, modern glass. And I thought it was a marketing monitor or something just consistent across the lines because they all said modern. Finally, we pinned it down, and finally, with the luck of a box that had a little too much information, and Tom was able to connect the dots that William Meyer did his decorating, Press's decorating, and then somewhere down the line, actually, I think carved it out, and the company became Modern Glass that did Fred's glassware, I think pretty much exclusively. But that's when we were able to start pinning it down and pinning down pattern names as well. So I think this rounds us out for the night, but that should touch us on most of the makers, as well as a number of the designers. There's a few more, but can't do it all. But I'll take you through what I got with Fred. Golden Leaves and Granada. Granada came in a few other colors as well as Golden Leaves. It was pink, and I think there's white and turquoise out there. Regal, I should put Regal question mark. Jury's still out a little bit on that. We see boxes with marked Regal that all these came in, but every once in a while, a different pattern will pop up in that box. But I don't see how it could be anything but Regal. But again, I should have probably put a question mark on it. Starfire, great pattern. Of course, y'all may have seen some of these on the craft show because Fred did a number of crafts that I have as well. One pattern I haven't pinned down the name for. Angela, here's your next assignment if we can ever figure it out. But great decoration nonetheless. And that caddy is dead giveaway for Press and Ruble. Anything handled with that kind of spiral wiring, probably his #1 seller in classic we see in all love. Eclipse came in about 6 different sizes. These are big, tall coolers, and a small little cocktail set for 2. But the little inset, I do have the old fashions and the cocktail set on its own. I think those came in sets of 8 like usual. But I also have this little cocktail pitcher and shots. But definitely you can see the Eclipse. Crocus, along with the Tang line or Tang, however you want to produce it, but it was the Tang dynasty out of China with that horse motif. I don't think I even have a set of that. I never found one in the box, but I did find this one. But I think it stayed along that kind of Asian Oriental line, certainly with that, the handle on that caddy. But this one was Crocus, we did finally learn. And yeah, Stardust. He did, you see, that box I wish I had actually shown you the whole shot. That box is marked Regal. So thus the quandary on Regal terminology and what it actually related to. But Stardust is on the box. I've actually seen it in catalogs too. And Fred did about 3 or 4 of these patterns with built-in snack tray coasters. Those were done by Stuyson out of Japan, and did a number of his plastic stuff, big salad sets and whatnot. Stuyson contracted with Fred and Ruble. So, but I think that brings us, yep, brings us to a close here. So let me get out of this and turn it back over to Margaret and
Oh,
Bill.
you're not off the hook yet. People might have questions, so
Not too long. Oh boy, I did run long. I
I
apologize.
think it'll be quick questions.
Thanks for hanging in there, folks. Sorry about the time.
I have one question. So do any of the kind of more cocktail sets, and you didn't show too many of those with the beverage server thing that weren't pitchers, did they come with drink stirrers with them or spoons?
Yeah, a lot of them came with all the accoutrement, but it's definitely like those that one set from Jeanette, that domino set. They did it for about 6 or 7 patterns. There's actually, I'm missing it in this one, but there's actually a little hook on the side that would hold a stir spoon.
Oh.
They come with a muddler or a spoon or at least a stir stick, especially for the cocktail pitchers, the longer, skinnier
Right.
ones. Definitely had a stir stick with them. Otherwise, you were shaking with a shaker.
Okay. Fascinating.
So the sets that you were showing are like sets of 8 or 12 with a caddy. Clearly they're for entertaining in the home. Do you know if they had similar bold patterns that were used in taverns or nightclubs at the time?
I don't know, but every single one of I don't know about patterns. Every single one of the makers have what they called serviceware, service catalogs. And a lot of the same sham tumblers they were from the service catalogs. They just got decorated later on. But those were for your restaurants, classic water glasses, all that. And in the same vein, those were the blanks that were sold to a lot of those decorators. But I don't know. I was a little young for the bars back then, but I don't recall a whole lot of pattern other than if you got your logo done on them. And there were certainly companies that would screen the logos or fire them on or even etch them. So you could have tied it to your business for sure. But for the most part, bars, they were breaking constantly, all night, every night. I don't think you'd invest in anything more than something clear and basic.
So they didn't have, is there like a Facebook group that does like top mark glassware?
What do you mean?
Top mark isn't the right name, monogram, logoed for like a hotel or a bar or something?
I don't know. Kind of like restaurant wear and
Yeah.
hotels that had their big restaurant collections. Haven't seen it, haven't come across it. And don't look at me to start one.
If anybody has the answer to that, of a group that actually focuses on restaurant or barware or something, I'd be curious about it.
Well, there were companies that did like anniversary sets and definitely monograms. They would etch or sandblast monograms for a special order all the time.
Okay. Do people have questions? I see a hand raised.
Yeah,
Fran?
I just want to say your joy just came through the whole presentation. You are so excited about it. It just carried over. And I'm as excited as you were. It was wonderful to catch your enthusiasm for it.
Oh, thanks, Fran. Yeah, I like a few of my cohorts, so we're nerdy for it. We just love it all.
Nerdy and good at it.
So there's a question in the chat. Do you know of other blue and gold fish designs besides what you showed?
Yeah, a number of makers, by Pat answer. They all copied each other anyway, what was marketing and what was hot. But like Libby especially, Libby Marine, there are definitely other aquatic patterns, seahorses. Fred Press did a seahorse design. I'd encourage you to come to Facebook and either get into the glassware group or the cocktail group too, which is a great fun group where they put the glass into use in practice. But Yeah, I can think of at least a dozen patterns that were aquatic. I can't name them all off the top of my head, but it was a popular theme. Like most 50s themes, you know, they were out there like, you know, um, Pussy Willow. That was huge during the 50s, or numerous others, but definitely pretty much everyone had some kind of under the sea theme or decoration.
Another question, how are you able to date the collections?
Generally by ephemera catalogs. You know, and the catalogs only offer us so much, and there are still some assumptions there, assuming like when it entered the market and when it left, based on when they enter the catalogs and then disappear. But that's not always accurate. Certainly, then there was certainly overstock and whatnot left, but that and the boxes themselves can tell you a lot of information. Folks like Federal were actually bought originally by a box company that needed an outlet to sell more boxes, but a lot of those have a trademark or a manufacturer's mark on the bottom of the box, and a lot of times they're dated. So at least you know when they got boxed up.
And how about advertisements in journals and things like that? Is that a good source for?
Absolutely. I just don't have access to them. Kind of like Mike Pratt and all his trade catalogs. They're a gold mine at times. It's a little daunting to just go through 30 years of Sears catalogs or, you know, whatnot. But the trade catalogs, the catalogs that the makers put out, definitely out there. Just hard to come by, but by default, that's our pretty much our gold standard. You'll see advertising, even newspaper clippings and cut sheets and whatnot, but you got to take some of those with a grain of salt because the advertiser, you know, Dillard's or whoever, Hudson's, you know, they call them something themselves, you know, they might just put some kind of heading and then somebody takes that as, you know, gospel that, oh, that's the pattern name. Well, no, it turns out we've been proved wrong more than once.
So in the chat, someone put a link to the Facebook group, Mid-Century Glasses and Barware.
That's it. Thank you. I need to get into the chat. But yeah, please join us. You're welcome. It's not a sales group. Absolutely verboten. We don't do sales. We don't participate in the market. We don't skew pricing. We are just collectors who love it and love each other and the information and wholeheartedly willing to share. There's a mid-century glassware and cocktail group. Edwina runs that one, and it's another fun one. Just search for that on Facebook, but they're all about the cocktail, but you'll see some great glassware. And they probably have the best rules of any group in Facebook. But please join us anytime.
Check that one out.
Yeah.
I think probably we're going to have to conclude this evening. But I thank you so much, and I thank everyone for being with us this evening. So Scott Hamblen, we'll look forward to whatever your next talk is.
Oh no, I'm giving you two. It's time to pass the microphone. But we'll see.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for staying with us. Y'all have a great night.
Good night, everybody.